Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit is Zappy here, back again with Mob Psycho 100 Season 2. We're on episode 6, and in the last episode we had Mob overcome Mogami, the 40 fucking some year old, well actually it would have been more than that, wouldn't it? But he did die 4 years ago. The evil psychic guy that had possessed a girl by the name of Minori, and basically had Mob trapped within a sort of, a mind realm where everything seemed normal. But basically, it was just a torture ground for Mob to get, fucked over for 6 months. But Mob overcame it with the power of positivity and got rid of those negative sort of emotions and connotations with positive emotions. And it was the first sort of look at, Mob going 100%, and the emotion that was coming out was positive as well. It was really cool to see that. And because of that, Minori, the girl, has now changed her ways, and now she's not a bitch anymore. So good stuff. That's pretty much it. So I guess we'll just get straight into episode 6 and see what we get. So yeah, you can go watch the reaction by going and clicking in the description below. There's 2 links there. One of them that takes you to my website, and the other one straight to Vimeo. If you'd rather watch it there, then you can do. And also, if you do want to watch the full unedited reaction, then you can do by going over to my Patreon and becoming a full-length tier patron over there. Links to that is also in the description. But yeah, that is also. Let's see what episode 6 has to offer. Let's go. Okay, episode 6. Well, that was an odd sort of way for I wasn't expecting it to go this way. I guess I was kind of just expecting because what I was thinking was sort of the overarching story that we were going for was the whole claw thing. And I guess it could still come in the latter half of this season, but I mean, next episode is going to be sort of the second half of what happened in this episode as well. So that's another episode down, and it's great because it's character development. So I'm not going to complain about it because I actually like it, but it's just surprising because it wasn't really where I was expecting it to go. I love the fact that Reagan is a flawed a flawed character. I love it because it's natural. Like what we were talking about in the previous episode 5, and all that talk about the whole thing was taking place in what was considered a realistic sort of world where the world sort of is cruel. And it kind of just carries on with this episode, really, where Reagan is, we're seeing the other side of Reagan, where we've had the side of Reagan for so long, where the only real flaw with him was the whole con man thing that he had going on, right? And at the very beginning of the show, in season 1 and stuff, you could have been fooled for thinking that Reagan was just taking advantage of Mob, and I guess in a way he is, but he has he cares for Mob, and he has the ideology of the morals about using the powers and stuff like that he's taught Mob, and he cares for him. And it's interesting that I just like the fact that we're getting more of Reagan, and the other flaws that he actually has, and it's interesting that last episode being the different sort of worlds, there was no psychic stuff in this episode at all. It was entirely based in reality, or normality, I should say. So there wasn't any psychic stuff going on, whereas last episode was completely over the top psychic stuff. And in that world, in the psychic and spirituality side of it, the few scenes that Reagan did have in episode 5, he was like, I trust Mob, I believe in him, right? And that's why he was staying there. And then move forward into episode 6, where he doesn't he doesn't sort of believe in Mob in that normal sort of environment. Like, he doesn't believe that he has friends. Like, it's crazy, because that is a very Reagan's character, and the stuff that we found out in this episode is a very realistic thing. Like, and it's the reason why I knew so early on in this episode that Reagan was actually the one that was lonely and not Mob, because they portrayed that so well this episode. With Reagan, like, it's the point where he would over analyze the situation to sort of steer towards something that he believed was the truth, because he kept telling himself that's what was happening, when in reality that's not what was happening at all. So he would say that, like, oh yeah, I bet Mob's getting real lonely right now, because that's what he wants to be the case. Like, he wants the likes of Mob to need him. Aside from the fact that Reagan is obviously, lonely, I think it's a case of, like, he is out there, and when he went to the sort of the bar, and he was in the bar scene, he was like, they call him like sensei and stuff, because he helps them out with his problems. But is it a case of, would the opposite happen? Like, would they be there for me, kind of thing? And I feel like that's the thing that he struggles with most. It's like, it's sort of that companionship that I think that he that he kind of wants, but it's interesting that, I feel like, because of he's kind of forced into a mentorship role, because of, like, with Mob, because of that's just the natural sort of order of things, of the way that it is, with him being much older, and it kind of just works in that way. So the thing is that Reagan would, he wants that relationship with Mob to be sort of based on sort of respect, I would imagine. And that's the thing. I think it's with this whole thing of, he's gone out of his way, and he's made a hell of a, he's made a lot with very little. He started his own business, and now, when he put his mind to it, even being alone, he's now gotten himself, some traction and whatnot. Now, he didn't get the TV on his own, because that Jodo guy helped him out, but, I was saying during the reaction, I don't know if that's a substitute. Like, will that be, like, will being being famous and the popularity be enough to fill the hole that he's looking for? And to me, it's not. That's like the wrong way to go down about it, because I've watched a load of interviews and listened to podcasts and stuff of famous people and people that are famous, and the likes of Keanu Reeves. He struggles with trust, because he feels like people only want to, like, sort of, be with him because of the fact that he's Keanu Reeves, and the actor, and not because not because of him truly as a person. And I feel like that is something that is based across the board, like with everyone that is famous in some capacity, that you would struggle to find trust in somebody, because you don't know whether they are there for the right reasons. Like, are they there because they truly want to be my friend, out of the fact that they like me as a person, or is it because they gain an advantage of being your friend because of, they're basically just, holding on to your coattails. and getting the advantages out of being your friend because you're famous. So I don't think it's gonna end well. There are a number of ways I feel like it could go next episode, but that's the thing. When I was talking about how I feel like Reagan would be looking for more respect in that relationship, the fact is that, and the thing is, he's telling himself, like, and it carries on from what he was talking about before, about how the things that he was saying, he wants to be real, so therefore he thinks of them as real because he's telling himself that it is, even though that's not the case. The same can be said for him at the TV thing, where he's sort of confident that he can get away with this, even though we know that he doesn't have psychic powers. So he's not going to be able to perform an exorcist. And Jodo was saying, like, the reason he's the one that actually got him into the limelight of TV, because he knows as well. Like, he knows that Reagan doesn't have these powers, so he's going to make himself look like a fool. And there are a number of ways in my head that I'm thinking that it could go, and one of them could be, he'll be struggling on TV, Mob will see it, and depending on how close the I guess the TV station, wherever it's being recorded, is at, Mob could sort of burst in and kind of give him a helping hand, because he sees him struggling. I mean, like he says, he's like, Mob said earlier on in the episode that he's beginning to realise that some things he says just aren't true. Like, even though it's sort of implied that, Reagan would be thinking, oh, he's talking about the psychic stuff. It's just, I feel like it's going to come crashing down next episode for Reagan. I think that there's going to be a moment where his confidence, like, just breaks because nothing is happening. And at this point, like, the business that he's built up, that's the reason why Jodo brought him on, to completely destroy all of that, like, that credibility that the business actually has. And the thing that the business that he's built up from nothing, technically, like, that's Reagan's baby, it's gonna come crashing down. So yeah, and I'm a bit unsure of exactly, like, how Reagan might take that. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was tough, sort of seeing him sort of like in that, like, lonely sort of phase, I guess. Because I mean, I've had trouble with that before as well. Like, in my head, it doesn't help when you drink as well, like, I suppose. But, like, when you're drinking and you have those sort of issues where you're just like, does anybody really care? And it's a struggle, and it's not a great feeling. So, I completely kind of empathize with because that's the thing as well, and I'm not ashamed to sort of admit that, I also had those things where I would blame others on, my insecurities, because I would feel like, people don't really care, so I would lash out at other people. Mind you, it was only when I was drunk, but because when I'm sober, it's just like, I know better. But I can feel what Reagan would be feeling, and the reason why is, like, he's not. It's tough, because in order to fix a problem, you need to first realize that there is one, and that's the thing that I feel like why next episode I feel like it's going to have to take something, like, it's basically going to have to blow up in Reagan's face in order for him to realize that it's a problem that he has. Because it's not right blaming, treating Mob like that. He sees Mob and cares for him in a facet of Mob's life, whereas the other one, it's not really as such, and it's more of a need of Reagan needing him than the opposite, and he doesn't. When he sees it, he doesn't like it. So, it's one of those things. I mean, when Dimple was talking to him, and he basically said like, he's fine sort of without you. Reagan's first instinct was to get back at Dimple and like, well, how do you feel? You know what I mean? Like, sort of trying to get other people to see how they feel, or how he feels, like, and see how other people feel about it, So yeah, that it's. It's going to be interesting to see how this sort of how it pays off next episode. I feel like it's going to blow up in Reagan's face, and because of that, Mob's going to go to see him again. It's gonna be, right. It's got to be that. The thing is, I don't know what real consequences that will have, because if it does, then the credibility of the business is going to go. And then I don't know where they go from there, really. Unless after that they focus entirely on Claw, and the business is kind of not really a thing anymore. But it's either that or Mob comes in to help at the last second. But we'll see. And I mean, on the opposite side of that, you've got. While Reagan will have always kind of had this issue, like, embedded within him, because he is lonely, like, because of the change that Mob is experiencing, Reagan's, like, sort of, it's now coming out, like, almost like Reagan is like witnessing and noticing the changes, and because of that, Reagan is trying to hold on to him, and that's why he's why he was trying so hard to keep him away. It's almost like, in a way, it's not that he is so surprised that Mob could ever have friends, but more so the fact of, like, he doesn't want to believe it's true, because he doesn't want them taking away Mob from him. And yeah, I mean, but, like, on the opposite side with Reagan's kind of, him starting to struggle, you've got Mob, who's actually sort of grown in confidence and whatnot. At the very beginning, you have, Dimple basically saying that he's becoming more confident, by being with the Body Improvement Club and stuff, and now he's surrounded by people, having a good time. And it actually made me wonder if there's ever going to be a point where, and I may have talked about this in the past in another episode, but I wonder if there's ever going to be a point, like, towards the end of the show, where he is no longer, like, the bland Mob, and, like, he's just full of life. I wonder if that is because at the very beginning of the series, so, like, season 1, I remember, like, so the premise is that every time he gets to 100%, like, there's an emotion that comes out, and then it's represented by, like, the fight or whatever the hell. But I'm beginning to wonder if over the course of the show you'll see Mob gradually, like, his character design change slightly, like, ever so, until it gets to, like, the end of the show, and he's like, he looks like more fuller, if that makes sense. Like, he'll look like, what he did last episode when he went into the fight. Like, he'll actually look like an expressive character. I wonder if that'll happen. But yeah, that'll be, there'll be something that we'll just have to wait on that. But yeah, I mean, the other thing as well, wasn't that the tofu thing, wasn't that the same Spirit from season 1, episode 1. And and I'm trying to think as well, because I feel like, because I was thinking that, I'm trying to think back to that time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that scene almost like you couldn't really place that scene within the timeline of actually episode 1, right? It was almost like it's a separate thing, like to introduce Mob. So I wonder if that was actually what just happened here in this episode. Like if that was the same scene that had happened back in episode 1, because he's exercised them twice now, right? So you can't do that. So surely, I think that must have been the same scene then, just from a different perspective. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it feels like it was anyway, because I do recognize him. Although I can't remember being called like the tofu guy. But like the building looked the exact same. And I'm sure there was a couple there as well in season 1, episode 1. The guy looks exactly the same. He looks similar. I could be wrong though. And yeah, obviously he had like the message from his mother and stuff. He had no friends on Friendbook. Well, he probably did, but he didn't have any birthday messages or anything like that. You know, and of course, like another sign of the, you know, of the sort of the loneliness thing, that only getting messages really from your mother. You know, and she's asking you to kind of sort your shit out, you know. But yeah, I would like to see Mama Arataka. I would like to see her at some point, you know, see what she's like. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got. I mean, it's you know, this season is really delving into like some like meaty topics, like really meaty topics. It's such a diversion from season 1. It's crazy. Makes me wonder what like season 3 is going to be like. You know, if it's going to be like another diversion, and we'll get like some like really dark shit. I don't know. If it gradually gets darker, then fucking hell, then that's that. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, I've linked to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there. And I also have a Patreon page as well. So if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier for $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early, and you get 4 episodes of Hunter x Hunter as well. So if you're interested in that, you can deal with that. So episodes 7 and 8 will be available on Wednesday the 11th. On Patreon for early access. Okay, so you know, actually, yeah, because this is episode 6, isn't it? So yeah, if you do want to go watch episode 7 and 8 right now, then you can do by going over to my Patreon and becoming an early access tier patron. And also, if you do want to watch these in full length as well, as the full length tier there for $10 a month. And there are other tiers there where you can pay to have a certain show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, then you can do by going and having a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.